Hello and welcome back to Chill Under Pressure. I'm Les.
I'm Adam.
I'm John.
And I'm Anthony.
Anthony Nash with AGas. Great to have you, man.
Thanks for having me. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. It's been a minute, and we've been trying to get together with you, and worked out this time. You got a busy schedule. I think you just actually flew back in, right?
Yeah, I landed about 1 o'clock this morning, actually, from Bowling Green, where we're headquartered out of. I was there for some training opportunities. So running on a little bit of sleep and some White Monster, but we're hanging in.
Well, and the energy we bring, of course.
That's right.
All there.
That's right.
So good. Well, thank you for adding us into that busy schedule. I know you're out and on the go all the time, and appreciate you making the time. And we're looking forward to chatting with you.
Absolutely. I'm excited about the conversation.
So I've known Anthony for a long time. In fact, I think we first met at church, and he was in the youth program, and I was one of the youth directors at the time. And so we've known each other since he was, and I was pretty young then too. I know I don't look that young now, but I was pretty young then too. And so we've been hanging out for a long time, and so I've been excited about having Anthony on here for a while because he's basically grown up in the industry, and those are always cool stories. So I'm excited to have you too, brother.
I think I was 15 when we met, and obviously didn't have a beard and much curlier hair at the time. So
that's right. You had the white man fro, and it was like red curly hair. It was odd. And he picked
Everybody
it and
thought
everything.
it was
like he would just pick it out till it was like
It's still there. I just have to maintain a lot to get it to slick back versus the curls. But
do we have a pic of that we can throw up?
Oh yeah, Kirsten's gonna put a pic of that.
Yeah,
That's happening
we'll
sure.
make sure that happens.
There's a ton of pics out there. I'm fine with the curly hair. It's the lack of beard that tends to scare people off when they go clean shaven. So
you look like you're 12.
Yeah,
of course you were. So I was
gonna say that's pretty much the last time I was clean shaved. So.
That's funny.
He hasn't trimmed his beard since. This is how long it took to get that big. It's just been growing ever since.
Exactly. Yeah, we trim it every once in a while, but I have strict orders from my wife to never go clean shave. So I'm kind of fine with that order.
It's funny. You're probably in the minority there.
Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of an age difference between my wife and I, so we don't need to create that even further by having a baby face.
That's funny.
She'll love that comment.
Yeah, right. So, we'll make sure she gets a copy of it. But so, what were you doing in Bowling? Are you doing some training out there in Bowling Green when you're out there?
Yeah. So we've got an event going on where we're trying to align the various semi-autonomous business entities that AGas has. So we're looking at a global approach around circular refrigerant economy and kind of how are our overseas partners getting gas versus what's working in the U.S. and so we're trying to bring all of those business partners together to really define and map out the course of the future to try to keep up with the demand and the change in industry.
So curious on that, how your European partners versus American partners are getting refrigerant. Is it because recovery rates are higher over there that helps them out, or is there a different? I don't know. I'm just asking.
It depends on where, right? So AGas has a number of sites across the world, and what we're seeing in the sites that tend to bring more gas in is it's due to regulation. And so if the regulation is higher or enforcement is higher, the pounds are higher. And so that's typically what we're seeing. There's also, Europe is about 5 years ahead of the US in some of its regulatory landscape. And so when we look at A2Ls, for example, when A2Ls had started to come to the US or the 454 gases, we had traveled over to our UK site in Bristol to kind of see what they were doing and how they were handling it and their recovery practices. And we're able to bring that back to the States from a safe refrigerant recovery perspective. Mm-hmm. But I think it's dependent on the territory and the country. But the U.S. obviously does a great job from a business perspective getting gas in a bottle, but there's more opportunity to go. And that's what we're looking to align with, obviously internally with AGas, but externally with some of our business partners and other reclaimers to try to figure out how do we increase that reclaim number through 26, 27, 28 and beyond.
That's what I was curious about because, we've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people about the recovery rates in the U.S. Even though it's regulated, right? It's like 3.5%, right?
Right.
So I was wondering if in Europe, what that percentage is, if you know, and where, because you said regulated, so they're just more compliant in general, or there's enforcement more aggressive there, which drives that regulatory compliance to get the refrigerant back in? Or
I think when you look at the population or the contractor base, right, there's not as many contractors overseas as there is in the US. And I think that it's really an autonomous thing. The contractors in the US can really shape to their own culture and their own set of rules and their own set of standards within each organization or within each company. And not that our overseas partners don't do that, but I think that the customer base is much smaller, that it's kind of an easier approach to try to regulate that gas and set the culture or set the pace of getting that gas in a bottle. For AGas, our business model is also a little different over there, where they own the assets as far as the tank movements and in and out, where in the US, a lot of the reclaimers that operate a cylinder management program, it's really, we don't own the assets. We're trading assets all over the place. And that, again, giving that autonomy tends to shift around the responsibility and the culture of things, I think. So it's
interesting.
It's hard to say what the numbers exactly are. I'm sure I can pull them up and we can pin them. But I think in general, the US isn't, I don't want to say the US isn't behind. I think we've continued to say it, and with FMs, they would say it too, is it's a culture thing, right? Yeah. We need to shift the mindset of getting that pound of gas into a bottle. And we're just trying to do that on a standardized approach. Obviously you guys are well aware of the rapid transition in 2016, 2017. And since then, AGas has acquired a number of other companies, and trying to standardize those companies to one singular approach is really our goal, so that our customers and anybody that really deals with a reclaimer gets a similar experience, whether it's in the US, Australia, Canada, those types of things.
Yeah, I was reading to the question. I was looking some of this up this morning. Not related. I had no idea Les was going to go down that train of thought, but and I'd heard that. Yeah, full of surprises. I'd heard that Japan had a really high recovery rate, or recovery/reclaim rate, and so I looked it up this morning. What is the highest country? And it is Japan, according to the Goog. And it's at 44%. So, I mean, we're at 3.5. So, you're talking about 14 times more, than where we are here. Like that's a huge differential. So definitely, and I've been thinking about, when I was working with AGas and on the Rapid team, what culturally, I think in general, the U.S. is a little bit more of a defiant culture. And I don't say that in a negative way. I mean, we like our freedom. We don't like to be told what to do. And other places around the world don't have that same sort of defiant, I'm a cowboy culture, where I'm going to do it my way and you can't tell me what to do. I mean,
yeah, it kind of speaks to
our kids came out of the womb like that.
Yeah, I was trying to, that's what I was trying to explain with the autonomous piece, just was going to be a little bit more political about it. But it is the Wild West in some instances, since Adam opened that door. Again, to his point, nobody likes to be told what to do. As we speed and we don't want our firearms taken, and you can't tell me how my truck looks or whatever else. And I think that it's the same cultures brought into the contracting world, right? Yeah. Not just in refrigeration. This is contractors in general,
all over the place. Yeah,
we can go down the contractor path here in a little bit if we decide to go down that route.
That one's a little rougher.
With
that's a rocky road
stuff I got going on. But yeah, I think I'd read similar that Japan, and I think, was it France, that's kind of in the low 40s of a percentile. And what I'm curious of is the install base. Like what's that 40% equate to? Is it out of what, right? Is it 2 billion pounds?
Yeah, it's a way. Right. I didn't have those numbers either, but it's a way smaller number than the U.S. Right. I mean, the U.S. has got a huge install base, but a percentage. I mean, that sounds really cliche, but a percentage is a percentage, So right. Yeah, it's a smaller number, but it's a big percentage. Almost half of it is getting recovered and set to reclaim, and of course that takes into consideration all of the actual leaks and all of the other refrigerant uses like MDFs and inhalers. And keyboard dusters and all that stuff that consume refrigerants too. That all is a part of that. So you're never going to recover something you intentionally blast on a keyboard, and that if that's counted in those refrigerants, because a lot of those things were HFC propellant based. Same thing with the MDFs, the little inhalers. They had back in the day. I don't know what's in there now, but they were 134A, and you guys over at AGas actually take them back and capture that now. But but only what's left in them after, and only the ones that are bad manufacturing, right, or something, or out of date.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
once you use it, people throw them away. They don't send them back.
and that goes to the mantra of the every ounce counts. We talk disposables having that, I think FM did the study, the 0.9 or 0.96
yeah. 4.3 million pounds.
And as much as I appreciate that statistic, it's probably higher. If you look at, I walked into one of our shops and we had picked up a cage of disposables from a contractor, and I had picked one up and there was 7 pounds of 404 in this disposable. And luckily that they didn't vent that. It was brought back to us, but that's a disposable case. When you talk about the MDIs or the inhalers, the auto cans, those types of things, there's a lot of refrigerant that comes out of those that can easily be vented if not managed properly.
Well, and you look at it and go, why are you turning that in? Like, you could sell that 7 pounds, like you could sell it.
Well, it's that kind of Wild West. It's if
so they're not tracking it, right? They're not tracking it either. It's there's a high margin to it. So when they still made money on it, right? But you're still losing that, and someone didn't want to carry it or whatever, so they just turn it in, and it gets lost in the mix because they're not tracking or refrigerant, which means they can't control it, which means they're losing profits.
And is a contractor really going to take the time in a 5 or 10 ton split system to put that in and grab another jug, or can I just throw that one in the disposable bin and grab a fresh one and keep going? I
think the other thing too is I was talking yesterday to a guy right before I was on a panel for MTCAZ, but they said, people talk about this all the time, but they said about 11 too. I can still get R11. I'm like, yeah, but it's because it was recovered. Right. That's the only reason you can get it, is because it was recovered. Right. And you look at these, R11 wasn't in small systems. So these small systems, 25 ton and under, have all the refrigerant and no one's paying attention. They're just going out and not getting those pounds, those ounces back in to the recovery. And that's going to be, we'll get into that a little bit, because I know you're front and center on that for AGas, if I understand, for a lot of areas. So we can go down that road. But the point is that we've averted this crisis based on the ability of the market to supply what was needed. So we've had these short stints of pain, but nothing long term. So it just kind of goes away, and then they don't think it's really coming.
Les brought up, he was on the lunch panel yesterday, and I don't know if you guys are following this whole soccer thing we got going on in the United States. I don't know how many soccer fans are here, but what's more interesting than the World Cup's here. And what's more interesting than the actual soccer game is watching all the foreigners from all these different countries come to and visit the United States. And they're like, now they're going back to their homes and they're like, I can't even go to sleep because I don't have air conditioning. Right. So we talk about the scalability of what this looks like in recovery from other nations. And then Les brought up the good point during the lunch to tie that in was, hey, a lot of this refrigerant is under the 15 pounds. It's on the residential side of things, and I thought that was pretty funny. And, we're talking about the percentage that's recovered compared to what's out there for individual residential homes for those foreigners that are living their day-to-day life without AC.
We talk about what's coming and the shortage. So just to frame this for folks who aren't aware, in 2029, a 50% reduction from where we are today is happening. It's a 30% overall in this step down thing, but not to get lost in numbers. The EPA is cutting down by an act of Congress. This isn't the EPA's decision. This is Congress passed a law, and they codified in the actual legislation they passed this step down. And so in 2029, a 50% reduction from where we are today in high GWP gases, HFCs. So that's your 410s, your 404s, all that is happening. And so what that means is there just is not going to be enough 410A. And people say, well, we heard that at 22. The thing with 22 was there were SNAP approved replacements. Right. So you could go to a 407 and you could go to something else and use that in that system. There are no SNAP approved 410A replacements. So that piece of equipment doesn't have an alternate you can put in. Now, there are some people working on it to try to get approval, but as it sits right now, I'm not aware of any SNAP approved 410A replacements. I mean, Nash, are you? Like I was just
No.
There's someone out there claiming they have one. I think someone was brought to our attention, but no one can actually find where it says that that's legit.
Yeah. Other than their own website where they say it's
Other than
Snap
their
approved, but you go to
website,
Snap and you can't find it anywhere. So,
Well, from a 22 perspective, I mean, there were dozens of drop-in replacements. I mean, HP80 and MO99 and a bunch of kind of really weird one-off gases that, from a recovery perspective, I mean, obviously the industry recovered those gases, but from a value perspective, it didn't really add to that 22 market pool in the back end. And Les, to your comment earlier about, that gas has to come from a recovered source. I mean, I'm young, but I'm an old school guy, right? So I've got a 66 pickup truck that I love and want to put AC in. But before that, when I first met Adam, I had a strawberry metallic pearl man red Camaro that had R12 in it at the time. I knew if I didn't say the color specific that I picked out of the swatch that it was going to be, he was going to correct me anyway. But
I mean, I just gotta know what self-respecting male goes to the book and picks out strawberry metallic pearl.
Look, I'm from Arizona. It was this very like copper red. I didn't name it. I just picked it out in the swatch book, and so that's what color
it was.
I think he's going to the swatch book.
Yeah,
it was a cool pick. It was a cool color. It just had a
very,
name.
very Arizona, and I made the mistake of not calling it man red out of the gate, and it's been 20 years that I've never
like,
lived that down.
When Anthony told me the color, I'm like, dude, no. You went to the book, you found yours, and it was man red. And you were like, that's definitely the color for me. Nobody's going to know what the swatch said. You just make up the color.
That was factually 16-year-old Nash just not understanding how life works and what you let out you're going to live with 20 years later.
That's right.
But my point in
we
that
all have that stuff, by the way.
100%. But my point in that is that car at the time had R12 in it, and the system didn't work. And as kind of a broke out of high school kid, I didn't have enough money for R12 to put in it and switched it to 134. But you talk to the old school car guys and they wish that there was more access to R12. And there is. You can still get R12. You can still buy it. But the only source that it comes from is from something that's previously been recovered. Obviously the reclaim side, there's a heavy incentive because of the GWP and the ODP substances that are in it. It's harmful if vented, but we recover it and destroy it for carbon credits as most reclaimers do. But there are a lot of guys that are still sitting on their smaller jugs or smaller cylinders of R12 because it was a good gas for its purpose. But everything, when you look at the AIM Act and the phase down that's happening, like Adam had mentioned, it's all following that ODP or GWP path. And that's what nobody likes to hear it. And we've heard this and AGas, other reclaimers, FM, we all talk about the natural progression is to a zero GWP gas or propane, cyclopentane, those types of things that are already out there, but not in large volumes if we're not responsible with the gas. And I know that's a message we continue to preach on, but it's true that when you look at R22, for example, we can still get R22. We're still recovering out of systems. Just because the phase down is happening doesn't mean that there won't be an access to it, but there won't be if we don't recover it. And that's where it's got to start.
Right.
What's always blown my mind about this market is it's valuable stuff, right? I mean, this material that you're supposed to be sucking out, and not letting go, is worth money. AGas pays people for this stuff. Hudson pays people for this. The reclaimers buy it because it's worth money. And that money, that value, right, is fairly significant. I mean, when you think about the amount of copper that these guys, that are the technicians in the world will stop everything to pick up little bits of coppers because that's worth pennies compared to refrigerant, and yet that still hasn't translated. And to be fair, I think some of that is because those little bits of copper that technician cashes in, and the refrigerant the wholesaler cashes in, or maybe their contractor, but never the technician. And so, that's a topic that I think, the industry needs to resolve. But regardless, it's interesting to me how much value there is, and yet it's still not being recovered. And yet copper is like
no one's throwing it away.
No one's throwing it away.
I'm just tossing it.
There is value in it. And I think to your point, Adam, it's figuring out how to strengthen that incentive structure. With California and the CARB program had tried it a little while ago, and the numbers just really weren't there to make it enough of a a nut for the technician to grab. But to Adam's point, it didn't go to the tech that was recovering the gas. And I think that's where, when you look at, to your point, Adam, about copper or aluminum and cans, those types of things, that goes into their pocket.
Yeah.
Where, we do the same thing. If we recover a bunch of disposables and take it to scrap steel, we'll split the scrap steel. That was something that we had done back in the day, and still do. That there's an incentive for the techs to. Nobody likes sitting and punching disposables all day long. No. It's just not fun, especially in Phoenix. It's 120. But if we can do it in front of a swamp cooler with some good rock and roll, then it makes it that much more fun. And if we can scrap that in and share that between the techs that are doing it, then it makes it that much more rewarding for it. On the same thing on the refrigerant side is we have to figure out a way to bump that incentive up and educate folks on the different programs. There's a lot of people that don't know that reclaimers, not just AGas, that reclaimers in general will pay for that gas. Mm-hmm. We were just talking to a customer up in the Northeast that they were being charged $160 a tank to drop off to their wholesaler. And wow. And so when you look at those numbers, of course, and I'm not condoning this, but I can see the rationale why $160 or behind the shed and crack the valve so I can still use this asset. That's more than the tank.
We don't need to name names
by pound.
We don't need to name names, but I want to say, who you are, wholesaler, that group, and you should be shamed. Publicly shamed. That's terrible. Well, we should charge for what we do. Fine, make your money, but my word, you're literally forcing people to not do the thing that we all need. That's just such a terrible business strategy.
There's a disconnect. It says at different levels, they don't understand the refrigerant is the lifeblood of the HVACR equipment. If it doesn't get back to a reclaimer, then it affects everybody. That contractor no longer has anything to sell or to fix equipment, which means as a supplier, you don't have anything to sell that contractor because they don't have a business anymore. It affects everything. So when you deter recovered refrigerant by price point, right, making it a large barrier to entry, you're affecting your own livelihood down the road. It might feel fine today, but those things have consequences that will come eventually because the lack of refrigerant availability affects everybody in the industry, regardless of what part of the industry.
And the product that supplier will have to be able to sell further down the line. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. That supplier won't have the product that their client, which is the contractor, is going to need because they basically held them hostage by price. It's unnecessary to charge $160 to do a tank swap. The reclaimers are swapping for that wholesaler. That contractor needs to hear the reclaimer is swapping for free to that wholesaler. So that $160 is strictly
right.
The $160 is strictly a money grab, all of it, 100% of it. And as Les just said, they're paying for the refrigerant inside as well. The reclaimer is also paying for the refrigerant inside the container. And that's a pure money grab. Like it's just absolutely unnecessary. Those contractors need to go around that wholesaler who's abusing them, taking advantage of them, and they need to go partner with Anthony directly.
Yeah,
that's they need. They need to get Anthony's cell phone number. They need to call him and say, "Come get my tanks."
Right. Well, when you look at it, I think
I'll throw that number up on the screen.
Yeah, we're going to post that live.
Yeah, that'd be great. When you look at it, it's true that it is kind of an abuse, and there are some instances where the reclaimers do charge the wholesalers, but it's nowhere near that, right? And as a broad stroke of a paintbrush, the reclaimers aren't charging the wholesalers for it. And when you look at and just trace that pound of gas back, and we'll use kind of hypothetical numbers because I don't want to pick out a specific pound, but let's just take 410 for example. If AGas is selling 410 at $8 a pound to the wholesaler, and the wholesaler is selling that to the contractor for a marked up, 28 or $29 a pound, and then by the time that you're the homeowner, and as a homeowner, I've had to kind of call around more for family, right? That may or may not have access to refrigerant, but I've been quoted up to $200 a pound for 410.
Yeah.
And everybody's got to make their money. But if we can drop those numbers or play around with those numbers a little bit, then one, we can either raise the incentive to the technician to recover that gas, or we can actually work with the wholesalers to not charge that much. And there are to be clear for the folks listening as well, there are a ton of wholesalers that do the right thing and aren't charging.
Absolutely.
And they
That's
might
right.
have a charge on the mixed gas depending on how it tests. But for the most part, Les, to your point there, the reclaimers are picking that up from a wholesaler, usually for free, and then paying the wholesaler for it. And usually what we're paying the wholesaler for is what we're paying the tech for. That would drop it off
The contractor.
the contractor. Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
And that's been an internal, like what we've been talking about, right? There's really two ends of the spectrum that affect the recovery. Obviously the tech that's at the unit right there, it holds 4 pounds. Am I going to recover it? It holds 8 pounds. Am I going to recover it? So that technician, right, who also has a list of 8 other jobs to get to, right, that they want to do, and he has to take the time to do it and document it. And there's stuff that goes with it. And then the incentive from the reclaimer. And if you could tie those two together, we think internally, we've been just kind of bounced that around. It changes some of the way things get done. But how do you get the technician to go against culture? And with 3.5%, it's a cultural issue across the industry to recover that system and make sure that recovered refrigerant gets back into the hands of the reclaimer. And part of it is, look, you are killing your own future. If you're a company and you're not doing it, you're punishing the younger generations going to school right now, HVAC school, to come out into an industry when you're depleting their resources to be able to have a successful career like you had.
You're not wrong about that, Les. I mean, that's spot on. The challenge is right now, today, it's 30 minutes from now, my kid's soccer game starts, and I'm still got to finish up this job. And I'm not thinking about tomorrow, much less 3 years from now or 5 years from now or the next generation. I'm thinking about what I want in this moment. And so that kind of immediate gratification is where the shift has to happen, I think. Now, I think as a whole, I think the culture is people are more aware. I hear more conversations about recovery and the need for more recovery, more reclamation today than I've ever heard in the industry. And I've been doing this since mid-90s. So it's really good to hear. There's more podcasts like this that are happening, more roundtables, more discussions, more nonprofits that are getting together to try to figure out how to solve this. And so here we are. This is our podcast, so we get to pontificate about what we think the solution is, right? But
that's right.
So I mean, it just, to me, it comes down to that tech. We got to get the tech to change their mind about doing it, and so that's where the conversation needs to start, really.
And honestly, I think it. In addition to what we've continued to preach is that culture shift, it's also switching up the mindset, right? So AGas, other reclaimers, there are recovery wings within the reclaim space. So obviously AGas Rapid Recovery, you guys are well aware, has a pretty extensive recovery wing that even on that side of the business, obviously their number one goal, when I started out with Rapid, I was only ever taught to recover. It wasn't ever taught to just let that gas go. The whole reason I had a job and the whole reason that almost 15 years later I have a career is because of recovering refrigerant, period. Right. So when you look at the contractors or the technicians that are doing it, we also have to switch up the mantra of, well, this is just how we've always done it. And especially when you look at feasibility of recovery. So we're aware that not everybody can hire an AGas Rapid to come out. Not everybody can hire a Hudson or whoever else, but there are other ways to do it, right? Can I pump that system down and isolate it into some of the major components and take it off a roof and do it on the ground? Can I take it to a scrapyard and have that scrapyard partner with a recovery company, right? A lot of people think that the only way and the only solution is to cut that line on the roof so that I can speed that recovery up so that my crane's not waiting. But if we can be responsible and take a couple extra minutes and change the culture of, okay, I may not have time to recover. And a lot of that leads to preparation planning, especially we're in Arizona. These techs are running 80, 90-hour weeks, right? So I get it. It's hot in the attics. It's hot on the roof. But if we can work with our contractors and work with the leadership teams of these businesses to change the mindset of, well, we've always cut the line, or we don't pump it down because it's a waste of time, or list a number of the other things, figure out better solutions to get that recovered gas into the system or into a bottle at the end of the day. And whether that's partnering with a reclaim or recovery company, doing it yourself, or figuring out maybe a not so normal solution to get that gas or get that unit in the hands of somebody that can actually recover it so that you are not spending your time up on the roof. Yeah. It's a value add. If the contractors can figure that out, and that was the whole, that is the whole Rapid mindset, right? That if we can be hired to come out and recover a system, whether it's a fridge, a grocery store, a chiller, whatever it is, we're going to seek to recover that as fast as we can, so we can multiply the technician's time.
That's right.
And so if more people can grab a hold of that and really understand it, it becomes infinitely more rewarding. And then honestly, the contractors and the technicians that have figured that out and that are begging for that service from a recovery company, not just AGAS, I want to make that clear too. Obviously, we want a piece of that pie, but we've also mentioned that 3%, if we can bump that number up, there's so much gas out there. I mean, I can't even imagine the U.S. getting to a 40% reclaim rate. That's insane to me. Yeah. But even if we're went to 7%, that would, I mean,
we're all fighting over. I say we, but the reclaimers, and we're not one of them, but the reclaimers, that side of the industry, are all fighting for a larger piece of this tiny pie. And the reality is, the pie has to grow, or we all starve. And I don't mean the reclaimers starve. I mean the industry starves. Our clients, the homeowners, the small businesses, the strip mall operators, they all starve, because this is, as Les put it, the refrigerant flowing through the veins of your air conditioner is the blood of the system, and it dies without blood. And so the pie has to get bigger, not just fight over the pie that we have today.
What's been interesting to me is, obviously I fly a lot, and I am, in my home life, I don't really watch TV. I've lived in my house for 6 years. I probably turned on the TV 3 times, right? Mm-hmm. But when I fly, I tend to watch movies, and so I've been watching kind of the Landman series, and it's similar, and there's a lot of direct correlation between the oil industry and the refrigerants industry. When you look at all of the things that it takes, or that oil is used in, and the economy, or the economic scale that oil has, refrigerant is the same way. And a lot of us, we tend to think, obviously, the grocery stores, the racks, the chillers, the large data center cooling, but there's equally as much pounds in the smaller systems that matter just as much. And back to that homeowner side of things, as a homeowner, I don't want to get down the road where my AC unit is costing $30,000 or $40,000 because the refrigerant value has gone up because of the lack of. Or when we get to those low GWP, those zero gases, I've got some sort of alternate system running into my house, whether that's glycol or water or whatever else that is potentially more dangerous. I think we as an industry don't want that to happen yet, because there's still an opportunity. That we're not too far late in this. We are behind as an industry of collecting that gas, but we're not late. We're not past the scope of correcting this thing. And it's going to take the technicians coming out of school, podcasts like this, HVAC excellence, those sort of educational opportunities, and really personal ownership, changing the culture.
We're wrapping up, man. That was a fast 40 minutes. So
we didn't even get down and actually get, other than strawberry metallic pearl, we didn't get Nash's whole history and all that. We just drove right into it. This issue, which is so good. But we're gonna have to get Nash back on again to actually hear, how did you get into this industry, and who are you, and
he's the Billy Bob Thornton of refrigerant.
He did high level.
Yeah. All we learned was he flies a lot. He doesn't watch a lot of TV when he's at home, and he had a strawberry metallic pearl Camaro.
Yeah, that's all that the viewers get out of that. That's
wrapped it up.
That's basically Anthony Nash in a nutshell. So glad to be able
to. The beard.
But quickly, what are you excited for? What are you working on? What's coming up that is exciting for you, or you see that anything relevant in the next year or two?
I think just growth. Obviously, I've been in the industry for a little over 16 years now. I started out on the mechanical side of things, and then I joke, but when I started at Rapid, I was kind of the janitorial staff, right? I was cleaning toilets and sweeping floors, and there was an opportunity early on in my career to get my EPA and travel to do what I do. And really, I've not looked back. I've been married for 12 years, and 12 of those years I've been traveling the entire time to collect refrigerant and to teach people how to collect refrigerant. So I think I'm excited about the opportunity of growth, both within AGAS and within the industry. I think that there's a, to Adam's point, there's a pretty healthy buzz around growth and around reclaim and separation. And there's some really cool technology that some companies are coming up with that excites me, because it's going to increase the throughput of gas that these reclaimers are able to do. But I think I can feel a buzz, I can feel an excitement both in AGas on I want to do the right thing. I want to get in and collect that gas. But I also think that there's an industry shift that's happening, and there's an incredible opportunity with the trades in general, that for every one of these kind of old school guys that is retiring, there's an opportunity to have a fresh new mindset, a fresh new 15-year-old Nash coming in and being taught the proper ways. That's what I'm excited about. And in my role, I'm blessed to be able to lead that, right? My entire scope of what I do at AGas is train individuals on how to recover the gas. And it's honestly the most fun, because that's all that they know when they come out of HVAC school, or we hire folks that have come from the HVAC world, and it's a totally different world when you're talking to them and teaching them recovery methods, when they're like, yeah, I had my 5-gallon bucket, or I had the hose, but they want to do the right thing. The whole reason we hired them is to increase that culture. And every touch that we have as a reclaim industry, every touch is an opportunity to teach and educate. And so I'm excited for just continued growth, continued education opportunities, looking at FM Hero and what your team is doing on educating the compliance side of things. Hopefully with this administration and with some of the rulings that are coming up, that it really pushes the need for refrigerants coming down the pipe to remain in a bottle and not get vented to God's bottle.
So, Nash, you're talking about education and opportunities to speak on this. We are co-hosting, not really hosting, co-presenting. We decided to co-present. We each got involved to present. We said, we got together and we were like, we should do this together and just take the block of time and really do this. At the Earth, which is again one of those nonprofit groups that is out there working on this and many other issues directly related to our industry. They're kind of a neat deal. So we don't have a ton of time to describe it, but if any of you out there are interested in engaging in this conversation, how to get more refrigerant out of the atmosphere effectively. And that means through things like separation, and you want to learn more about that and talk about how, what matters there. If you're interested in recovery rates and how to improve that, or training or speeds of recovery, like all these things, these are all topics. So if any of those things sound like, I would love to go to a symposium on that. This is going to be in Kansas City. So if you're interested in doing that this fall, ping us on it. You can comment wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast. You can comment, and you can reach out to myself or Anthony through our organizations, and we can get you there and get you invited along, because we'd love to have you there and join that conversation directly.
Yeah, really cool opportunity, I think, to be able to continue to partner with some industry giants. Hudson will be there, Chiller Services. We are doing our best to try as an industry to partner together for this. FM Hero, obviously leading the charge on the compliance side of things and data tracking. But really, as weird and as cliche it sounds, it's going to take all of us to make this happen on 100%. Every side of the industry.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Well, very good, man. Thanks for joining us today. It went fast. Well, I'll try to get you back in here in between your travel. But thanks for joining us today on Chill Under Pressure. I'm Les.
I'm Adam.
I'm John.
And I'm Anthony.
See you next time on Chill Under Pressure.